Hi everyone, welcome to Better Than This is Roshan, and today we'll be delving into the Evpn Multicast. Now, this is something I personally had trouble understanding with, but today we'll see the ins and outs of the Evpn Multicast. So let's get started. Now, even before we understand or come to this topic, let's walk through a few scenarios so that we can connect the dots and can see how this concept came into picture, right? So let's see the story that is right in front of us. Okay. So just imagine you have a VXLAN setup and you have a couple of VTEPs and there are certain hosts behind each VTEP. Now just disregard the fact that VLANs, just think every device is or everything is in a single uh, L2 domain. Right? So now given that every host, every device is in a single broadcast domain, let's say this host behind VTEP 1 wants to resolve the ARP of a host that is behind VTEP 2. What it will do is it will just send the ARP request to the VTEP. The VTEP will flood the ARP to all the hosts behind it except to the port where it received from. At the same time, it will flood to all the VTEPs in the network as well, right? In this case, to VTEP 2 and VTEP 3. And when they receive the ARP request, they in turn will flood the ARP request to the host beneath them. Eventually, this host will receive the request and it will just send the reply back. Now, if you see, if you just uh, see here, it is such a drawback given that everything is in the single broadcast domain. Even for a single host to resolve the ARP request gets replicated multiple times. So in a network with hundreds of thousands of hosts, this is such a nightmare. We just choke off the network, right? So how can we resolve this? Well, we can just segregate the host in different broadcast domains. Here is where we introduce the concept of VLANs, right? So we have certain VLANs in VTEP 1, we have certain VLANs in VTEP 2, the same goes on, so on and so forth. Right now, if you take the same scenario, if one of the hosts in blue VLAN wants to resolve the R of a host in, again, blue VLAN, but behind some other VTEP, let's say VTEP 2, it will send the ARP request. This VTEP will again flood into all the hosts in that VLAN except the port it received from, and it will flood to all the VTEPs that have that blue VLAN. In this case, only VTEP 2, correct? VTEP 2, when it receives the ARP request, it will in turn send the flood it to all the hosts in that blue VLAN, and then eventually this host will receive it and it will send the reply back, right? Now, this is a optimization compared to the previous scenario which we are discussing, right? And if you think about what traffic gets flooded, well, it's broadcast traffic like ARP, unknown unicast traffic. When you don't know the MAC address or certain devices, you just flood it. It's called unknown unicast. And you have multicast traffic. That means it's destined for multiple devices, not all devices though. So these three traffic types are usually flooded in the network, right? Now, this setup works fine for broadcast and multicast. Sorry, broadcast and unknown unicast, but let's come to multicast here for a second, right? Let's take this scenario. Again, you have a couple of VTEPs, and now if you see the blue VLAN is just present behind every VTEP, right? But if you notice, we have a source in blue VLAN behind VTEP 1, and we have a receiver in the same blue VLAN, but behind VTEP 3, right? So now, let's say the source sends the multicast feed. Since by default it's assumed to flood such traffic, what VTEP 1 does is it will just flood it to VTEP 2 and VTEP 3. Now this is good for VTEP 3 because it has a receiver behind it, but what about VTEP 2? It doesn't have any receiver behind it, right? This is such a again it's a drawback, right? If you have like 50 or hundreds of VTEPs, this multicast will be flooded again to every VTEP, to VTEPs that don't have a receiver as well, right? So this is a problem. So how can we solve it? Well, what we can do is we can maybe come up with a methodology such that I unicast the multicast traffic only to the interested VTEPs. So in this case, I have a receiver behind VDEP3. So VDEP1 can unicast the multicast feed only to VDEP3. So how we can achieve that is, maybe we can have a table, something of that sort, right? So let's say this table is in my VDEP1 and it says there's an interested receiver behind VDEP3, right? And whenever I receive a multicast feed, uh, I just unicast that multicast feed to VDEP3 only. So it will just look like this, right? Only VDEP3 will receive it and VDEP3 will forward it out to the receiver. VDEP2 or the uninterested VDEPs won't receive the feed. So this is again an optimization. Now this is good, but again, let's think from a scalability perspective. Let's say you have hundreds of thousands of VTEPs. And let's say there are like 100 VTEPs out of 500 VTEPs that have a receiver behind them. Now just think about it. This VTEP 1, if we employ this technique, now I'm not saying this technique is used, but I'm just building upon the concepts on how we can optimize it iteratively. And if we use this optimization, which we just discussed, it's good. But when you want to send it to, let's say, 500, 100 or 500 VTEPs, unique casting the multicast feed to hundreds of VTEPs doesn't seem ideal, right? Because it's going to take a lot of cycles on VTEP one. It's going to overwhelm VTEP one. And there's a probability of VTEP one going down because it has to send the same feed to so many VTEPs, right? So can we optimize this further such that uh, VTEP doesn't get overwhelmed, the source VTEP or the VTEP that has the source connected doesn't get overwhelmed. At the same time, it is only replicated to the VTEPs that are interested or have interested receivers behind that, right? So this is our requirement. Replicate the multicast field only to VTEP that need it. And secondly, do not overwhelm the VTEP that has the source, right? Well, how can we do it then? So what we can do here is we can, in the previous scenario, we unique casted the multicast traffic, right? Which is one step better than we flooding the multicast traffic, right? But we want to set this multicast train to multiple VTEPs, but not all VTEPs. So what we can do is we can just multicast the multicast feed. So just to give a brief on that, what we can do is let's assume this is the actual multicast feed, right? So what we can do is we can just make sure this actual feed is encapsulated in another multicast packet, and we call this as underlay multicast true. So the concept is you multicasting the multicast feed itself, and let's take uh, the same scenario but a little bit modified. You have hundreds of VTEPs, and let's say VTEP 20, 30, 40, and 100. VTEP 100 has the interested receiver behind it. So what we can do is we can make all these VTEPs to join the underlay multicast group via the spines. The spine will uh, join to the source VTEP. And there's a whenever there's a feed coming from the source, this VTEP will just encapsulate the actual feed into the underlay multicast group, right? UMG, underlay multicast group, is something I came up with. This is not an official term. So this VTEP will now send the encapsulated packet to the spine, and now it relies on the spine for it to replicate to all the VTEPs that are interested uh, in that feed. So let's say there's VTEP 50, the spine will also send a VTEP 50 here. And how it is replicated is based on the multicast emerald table. So Spine will also maintain an emerald table, and it will say that, okay, this VTAP has said it is interested in the underlying multicast group, so I'll send it to VTAP 100 and also send to VTAP 50, something of that sort. So we'll see that how that looks like in a minute. I also have a small brief lab setup that elucidates on this. So hold on for a while. We'll just look into that as well. But this is the core aspect, right? Like how you can optimize sending multicast traffic in a VXLAN setup. We just multicast the multicast feed. Now, where Evpn Multicast comes into picture is it does the same thing. It helps in achieving the same thing by building the proper control plane information. Right? Before we also understand what are the control plane information and how it helps, we need to understand that when it comes to EVP multicast, there are three types of tunnels that are being used, right? And if I just scroll to the right, left, these are the three types of tunnels. So we have unicast tunnel, you have the broadcast unknown unicast traffic tunnel, and you have the multicast tunnel, right? So unicast tunnel, this has been there since the start of VXLAN because let's say you want to unicast something, you just use the VXLAN tunnel. And when you want to flood out something, let's say you have broadcast on unknown unicast traffic, you just flood it out, right? Now, why I say it's a tunnel, we'll look into that in a few, right? I'll come back to that in a minute. And the third one is the multicast tunnel, which is used to encapsulate the actual multicast feed, right? And on the right, if you see, these are the control plane information which is used to build these tunnels. So type 3 and type 2 is used to build that unicast tunnel. Type 3 is what used in building the broadcast tunnel, and type 10 and type 6 is what makes the multicasting functional. And we'll also look into how these types look like, what are their significance. Yeah, now let's head over to the lab and check this out. Yeah, and the lab setup looks something of this sort. Very simple and straightforward lab. You have VDEP 1, VDEP 2, and you have a publisher on the left, receiver on the right. And both these publisher and receivers are in the same VLAN, and these are the corresponding IPs, right? Receiver, receiver is interested in this feed for the group 229.111, and publisher is also sending feed for that group. And what you see here, 234.111, it is the underlay multicast group, the UMG which we talked about, right? So let's head over to the lab. Let's see the config real quick and let's see how this works. Okay, so leaf one, I'll just quickly show you the VXLAN config. As you can see, I have VLAN 10 and I have the multicast group 234.111 configured here. We'll look into this flood group in a minute. I'll just talk about it later, a bit later, right? And as soon as you configure this multicast group, what happens is it generates something called as type 10 route, right? So if I will show BGP, you can out type SPMSI. SPMSI is the other name for type 10 to retail. It just says, hey, remote BTAPs, if you want any multicast feed encapsulated and sent over to this multicast group, just join this underlying multicast group, right? Again, it just signals other remote meetups that, hey, if you want to receive any multicast feed, then you have to join this underlying multicast group because it is via this underlying multicast group that I'm going to send the traffic multicast feed. Okay. So if I go to leaf 2, you'd have received this route as well. Yeah. So you can see this route is being received from leaf 1, right? And we have the host, sorry, the publisher and the receiver here as well. So what I'm going to do is, and one disclaimer, just disregard the commands and the lab that you're using, just disregard the vendor. It's this, the scope of the video is just to understand how EVPN Multicast works. So What I'm doing here is I'm just sending a IGMP report from the receiver. That way I'm signaling to the PTEP2 or the leaf that is connected to the receiver that, hey, I want this feed, right? So I'm just signaling my interest now. Now, as soon as a receiver signals its interest to it's connected directly connected VTEP, let's go to VTEP2. It will do two things. One, it will generate something called as type 6 route. Now, type 6 route is just the VTEP telling that, hey, I have an interested receiver behind me. So this type 6 is generated by VTEP2 and it is sent to all the other VTEPs in the network. So if I do show BGP and BGP EVPN route type has met or the other name for type 6, you can see it says, hey, I have a interested receiver for this group 229111. Right? If anyone has this feed, just send me out. Right? And this type 6 route is eventually received by lead 1. So if we do the same here, he'll be seeing this route being received from VTEP 2. Right? And if you do show IP as the MPC will be used, you can see that it says I have received a type 6 route over the beam tunnel, signaling that there's an interested receiver behind VTEP 2. So let's do one thing. Let's start sending the feed. Okay. Again, I'm not gonna go over the specifics of how this command works and what this command is, but just just know that this command sends the multicast feed from the publisher end, right? So I'm just sending the feed now. And if you do show IPM now, we can see this VTEP2 has joined the underlay multicast group as well, correct? So let's try to take packet captures to see if the packets are traversing across the network or not. So my publisher is connected on 82, and if I do, yes, I'm getting the feed. Now when I'm sending towards the spine, I should be encapsulating it within the underlay multicast group. So let's see that. Let's restrict it to packet count 1. Yeah, so here's the packet. So here's the underlay multicast group. 10111 is the source and the actual multicast group IP 229111. And as you can see, it's getting encapsulated within a VXLAN multicast packet whose source IP is the IP of the VTEP 1 and the destination IP is the underlay multicast group which we configured, right? So this packet will eventually reach the spine. The spine will eventually send it out to leaf 2. And as we discussed previously, how will spine know that how will spine know that it has to send it to only VTEP 2 or other VTEP? It's again using show IPM route. As you can see, for the underlay multicast group 234.111, it says our incoming interface is 81 and the outgoing interface is 82. Right? So it will look at this table and now spine will send to 82, which is going towards leaf 2 or VTEP 2. Right? Now VTEP 2 will eventually get this packet and it will forward it to the receiver. And just to confirm that, we'll take a TCP dump on the receiver end as well. As you can see, we are getting the naked multicast feed. The VTEP makes sure that it decapsulates the feed and just sends the naked feed to the receiver. And so the publisher and the receiver are not aware that something like this is happening, right? That's what this Evpn Multicast is about. And if you're wondering what is this config, remember a few years back I said how the broadcast or the multicast, unknown unicast traffic is also a type of tunnel. And you can also uh, come up with a scheme that says, hey, if I receive any broadcast or uncast traffic from my downstream devices, I just, again, instead of flooding it, I'll just send it to all the VDEPs in a multicast packet. So it's again similar to flooding, but only thing is, instead of you casting it to each of the VDEPs, you are just multicasting it once, and the spy takes care of the replication, right? So that's what is happening here. So if you see 224.111 is the group that I configured for broadcast on non-unicast traffic, and that's what this other VDEP has joined, and the spinal also has joined the tree for that. This multicast group is only used for broadcast on non-unicast, whereas this one is used for only multicast tree. So that's the crux of Evpn Multicast. There's nothing much to it. The configurations are a bit complicated at times, but once you get the whole order, it's pretty easy, right? So that's the crux of Evpn Multicast. So I hope you gained some insights from this video, and yeah, that's it from my end. Thank you.